Hey everyone. Florida has always been like the weirdest state in America, simply because like all the weird news that comes out from there. Like 9 times out of 10, it'll have to do something with like someone doing drugs and doing something really weird, to the point that it sounds like made up. However, recently, I did find a story in Florida that dealt with meth, but now with someone taking meth, but with 7 people who went to a restaurant got poisoned because they had meth in their food. The story began back in the middle of June when a couple and friend went to a Japanese restaurant called Nico Sushi Bar, where they had a meal there, where they sat down with 4 other people who had already been served. The 3 people had already been to the restaurant previously, but this time the chef was really like insisting on them trying the new sweet soy sauce. He went on a lecture saying like how soy sauce is good for you and you should take it like once a day, but to me, saying that like out of the blue seems like really weird, but for a couple and friend that was just like normal to them. After they ate their meal, they were fine until like later that night started having symptoms, with the wife, John Gray, saying like he struggled to sleep because like her heart was racing and she was like suffering from like extreme paranoia, which I imagine was like an awful experience to have. To get help, the husband, Brandon Gray, called his friend who was like a police officer, just come like what he should do or like what he's suffering from. The friend advised him to go to the hospital because a family of 4 was actually admitted to the ER previously, who were actually the same people who were at the same restaurant. Even though it was only the couple and friend who were tested and it came out positive for meth, I'm pretty sure if the other 4 people also tested, they also come out positive, just from the fact like they was feeling the same symptoms as well. The following day, the police opened an investigation to like go into the matter and question the restaurant, and the couple actually hired a lawyer to like file a lawsuit, but first they wanted to be like 100% sure that it was the restaurant who caused the symptoms before like accusing them of it, because at the time they didn't have enough evidence to prove like it was a restaurant, like an employee who caused it, so first they wanted to like find more proof before going to court fully. But to be honest, I don't blame them, because judging by like the way they described it, it sounded like a really painful experience that could have definitely gone worse.
We placed a to-go order to bring back home, and then we got our leftovers in takeout. It wasn't until later that evening that we realized something was wrong, and even into the next morning, none of us slept. All of us had racing hearts. It was very scary the next morning. My husband had reached out to a friend of ours who is a cop in Santa Rosa County and told him that, it was occurring to all 3 of us. The only common thing was that we had dinner together, so that had to be something there. We thought maybe it was our drinks that had been drugged, and I remember telling my husband, that's crazy. People don't put anything that would keep you up. That's not how you get drugged. So he called him and talked to him about it, and honestly, luckily he did, because at that point, about 30 to 45 minutes later, the officer saw the case with the other family where they had been in the hospital, same thing, everything was the same, and it was the same restaurant. So at that point, we went up there, and we got tested. They did urine tests, they did blood tests, they spoke with all of us, got our statements. We saw the 12-year-old boy who had chewed an ulcer into his lip, talked to them, and they had the same experience, just up all night, racing heart, no clue what was going on.
I actually looked into the symptoms of like eating meth, and alongside like what they suffered from, there was also like a potential risk of like blood vessel damage, which would have then led to a stroke. Over the next few days, the people who started experiencing like symptoms like depression, so I'm sure for them, they were really worried about what's going to happen to them in the future, or if they're going to like develop really like bad health issues from this, just from taking a drug they didn't even know they took.
As it relates to testing positive for methamphetamines, can you tell us what it's been like the past few days?
It has been honestly horrifying. Even after that, it's not just like you're up for 24 hours and then you go to sleep. It took several days for me to get a full night's sleep. Even then, I have nightmares. One of the biggest and worst concerns for me is I have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old who are always with me. We don't get babysitters. They happened on a very last-minute request from my grandparents to be with them. It's something that, like I said, it rarely happens, so they just happened to be with them that night, and it's the what-ifs. What if my 5-year-old had been there? She is very petite. I don't think she would have survived that. I'm quite certain she wouldn't have, and it's been very difficult, an extreme depression. It's hard to know what you're experiencing and feeling that is because you were drugged, or what you're experiencing and feeling because that's just the new reality. Where do I take my kids to eat? Do I just cook at home from now on, having no trust to take them anywhere? I'm trying to figure out where to go from here.
Matthew, if you will step to the mic and just, after the positive findings regarding methamphetamine, what has it been like over the past few days?
It's been really rough. I lost a lot of weight to a lack of wanting to eat, a desire to not feel like I was feeling that night. I didn't drink any water for days, and ever since I've just had this overwhelming sense of depression that I've been not good enough, that my work hasn't been good, that I just haven't been successful ever since I experienced that. My heart rate spiked. I remember seeing the heart rate monitor hit nearly 200. I was horrified of what that meant for my job, for what I skate. That's how I know Jordan and Brandon. And I had no idea like when I would be able to get back to that, how it would affect me in the coming days and weeks. And it just scared me because I didn't know where I was going to go from there.
So while the husband was at the hospital, he actually made a post on Facebook warning people to not go to the restaurant, saying, "Watch out for Niku's Japanese steakhouse and sushi bar. We, along with multiple families, are sitting in the ER because some employee tainted the food with meth. Posting this so hopefully no one else goes and has to deal with the same shit we are dealing with now. Please do not visit this restaurant." When people read this post, they had like mixed reactions. Some of them feeling really bad for them and like actually like taking the warning, while others are like were questioning if they really did consume meth. They're saying stuff like, if the food really had meth in it, surely everyone in the restaurant would go to the ER as well, not just like 7 people. And even though that's true, the husband did talk about like how the chef was specific to mention the soy sauce, noting it was sweet, which is a really like uncommon flavor for soy sauce. After the news came out, the manager actually made an apology to the people, saying like it was heartbreaking for someone to suffer that much. But even though they were being sympathetic towards the victims, they didn't really specify that they felt bad that it was the food that caused it, but instead like they were harmed by something on our premises. And then I showed people that this was like an isolated incident that doesn't reflect on the services. They explained how they want to work and comply with the police, like helping the investigation to find like the root cause of this. But for the first few weeks, the police didn't really find much evidence, and they also like investigated like the leftovers the couple brought from the dinner they had from there. So it did seem the story was going to slowly fade out because there simply wasn't enough evidence to actually close the restaurant or for the couple to like go ahead with the lawsuit. And there was only like a few suggestions, like maybe it was like an angry employee who wanted to like fuck over the restaurant by causing like food poisoning, but even then they couldn't prove that. And that was until this week, where the police actually found 2 soy sauce bowls and like unopened to-go packets in the restaurant, which proved that it really was the food that caused the food poisoning for the 7 people. This was somewhat shocking because most people, including me, expected it to be like an angry employee who brought like some like outside substance and tampered with it to put in the food to like cause the restaurant to be like shut down. But the fact that it was found in bottles and packets means that it came from like the manufacturing source, which makes it more confusing because I have no idea how you like have meth in your products in a factory. Even though the news hasn't mentioned if the bottles were like sealed or opened, the packets are probably enough evidence because there's no way you can actually open them without like clearly making evidence that you tampered with it. As for the chef, who was kind of suspicious for making it seem special, I can only assume like he tried the soy sauce before and liked it because like it had a unique flavor to like him and most of the people for like no reason. Which leads me to my other point of asking like how long they've been using soy sauce that has meth in it, because even though like some people were admitted to the hospital, I really don't know like how many people before them were feeling symptoms from eating it, but they didn't go to like the hospital or speak out about it, which is why like they wanted the news. At the same time, this could have also been like a new delivery that was the first one to have meth in it, which is why like this is like the first time happening or like recent. But regardless, if the couple does decide to carry on with the lawsuit, this might lead to like a chain of people also suing them as well, because in the past they weren't sure if it was a food, so they didn't want to go out and like immediately accuse the restaurant of it. In terms of how the restaurant reacted, they actually made a statement saying like they would close it down, but not because of like the violations they broke, but instead like they were unable to like sustain the cost of staying open. I'm guessing by this they meant like ever since the news came out and like surrounded the restaurant, the trust they've had for so long with people has been broken, and now a lot have been there since. And the owners probably realized that even if they were to like prove that it wasn't them who caused the food poisoning by the end of like the investigation, the damage would have already been dealt because like not many people have gone there to eat there. This is evident in the disdain in the paragraph the owner made, saying like the family business of over a decade had to be closed with like 20 employees fired just from the power of social media. To be honest, I can't feel bad for them because so far it seems like the source of soy sauce with meth in it is coming from like the manufacturer, but then the restaurant is suffering from those problems caused by it, and they've actually been harassed by media outlets trying to like reach out to them. Right now I just hope the investigation carries on because the manufacturer might actually be like supplying other restaurants with soy sauce, which might lead to like a domino effect of people in Florida having like food poisoning from meth and soy sauce. One thing that blows my mind is how like little attention this story got in the beginning, because there really aren't like that many articles about it, and like the earlier and more current videos on YouTube about it don't have a lot of views, so not many people knew about it. But ever since the Boston packs were discovered, more people are covering the story, with like how attention grabbing the title is of meth found in restaurant soy sauce, and this time they have actual evidence to prove it and like validate it. Like it'll be interesting to see like where this goes next, like if the couple is actually gonna follow through and like open up the lawsuit, because this time they have like actual hard evidence they could use in court. But that's all I really have to say. So hopefully you guys a video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.